Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy! Okay, so today I have another male quilter, and you know from past things that I have talked about that we are rare. So this is really a nice treat to be able to interview Sean, the guy who sews. It's Sean Ironmonger. And if you haven't checked out his YouTube channel yet, you should. I will have that listed in the show notes below today. So we're going to jump right into it. And I've already said your name and everything like that. And before we start the recording, I was saying how of an unusual last name that is. I don't know how many ironmongers there are in the world, but I do know that you originally come from Australia. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm originally from Australia. And as for the last name, my dad has done a lot of family history on that. And it originally, not surprisingly, is an English name. And the ironmongers were basically the people that sold hardware. So, like the original Home Depot or Lowe's is how I like to tell people it is. And apparently there was three brothers in England. One stayed in England. One family came to Australia, which I'm part of, and then the third brother went to Virginia in the US, which is coincidentally where I'm currently located. So I've actually met the Virginian family.
Oh, okay. That's kind of neat. Because ironmonger usually, like last names, I used to do some genealogy kind of research on my own family, and last names tend to often reflect the business or the type of work that someone was in. And an ironmonger is, just as it said, is someone who works with iron. So I just thought that was kind of interesting because
Yes.
you don't find an ironmonger every day. So,
No.
okay, great. So again, just can you say again exactly what part of Virginia are you in?
I'm in Chesapeake. It's down in the southeastern part by the ocean near Norfolk and Virginia Beach.
Oh, okay. So how's the weather there today? This being
Uh,
April here. Well, there
it's
too.
nice because you're in Toronto, correct?
Yeah, outside of Toronto by about 40 miles. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think it's about 65 degrees or about 17 degrees Celsius. It was a little warmer yesterday, about 25 degrees Celsius. So
Oh,
it's
nice.
nice spring weather.
Yep, we're at 8 degrees Celsius right now. Yesterday it was about 12 or 13. You never know in April what's going to happen in Canada. It could see
Right.
snowing tomorrow. So whatever. We don't have snow in July. Okay. That's just for all of our American friends there that like to come up and try to find ski slopes in Ontario in July. But and it does happen, believe it or not. Anyways, let's get back to what we're talking about. So how long have you been quilting?
About 8 years. I started just after Christmas in 2013.
Oh, okay. You've been quilting longer than I have been then, because I've only started about 5 years ago. So, and
Okay.
I've been watching a lot of your creations and I love them. And we're going to come to your creations in a moment. So, how did you get started then? What got you into quilting?
It was definitely not high school's home economics class because I learned absolutely nothing there.
Then you got to
But
take it. Wow. When I was in high school, well, I'm that much older than you. Boys were not allowed to take home ec, as they called it then. And I would have liked to have, but carry on.
yeah, well, in Australian high schools, which is years 7 through 12, we don't have middle school. It was required that you took 2 semesters of sewing and 2 semesters of home of cooking and so forth. So, but yeah, I didn't really learn anything. But how I got to start quilting was we went to the State Fair of Virginia in 2013, and as part of their displays, they have a quilt show, and I saw a lot of the quilts there, and I was like, I wouldn't mind trying that. So that kind of piqued my interest, and then yeah, it just kind of went from there.
The rest is history, as they say. Yeah, true.
Yes.
I find that I love Australia. I've been to Australia 3 times. I'm hoping to get back there once we can travel again for a fourth time. And we've traveled all over Australia, all the coasts, everything. And I find Australians tend to be very progressive in their schooling system. I am a retired teacher, high school teacher as well. And we do in Ontario have studied a lot of things as teachers about the Australian system. And you know, that's very revolutionary that they said not only that you could take home ec, but you had to take 2 courses in it. I mean, I think that's a really good thing. I think guys should be exposed to sewing at an early age because, it's not just for the girls, kind of a thing. So, did anyone in your family influence you as well?
I was thinking about this question, and the answer is yes, my wife, because she was like, I was sitting on the fence of, am I going to start quilting or am I not? Am I going to go out and buy a machine? I looked at some thrift shops for some and I couldn't find one. And apparently I talked about doing this enough between September when we went to the fair and Christmas that on Christmas morning, there was a sewing machine sitting, waiting for me to open.
Nice gift.
Yes.
So that was the influence. She put the tools in your hand and away you went.
Yes.
From
Yes,
there.
sir.
Nice wife. And I also understand it's a little bit on the side, but your wife is also a crafter and has a YouTube channel as well. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, she is a knitter. She likes to knit mostly socks. And then she started the YouTube channel shortly after I did, called Dog Mom Knits.
Okay. And is that because you have dogs? Which I already know the answer to this, but
yes, we have 3 dogs. We don't have any children, so she's a dog mom.
Yeah,
and
they're your
she's
fur
actually,
babies.
Yes, our fur babies, and she's actually a teacher as well.
Oh, okay. So, and what does she teach? Just
she teaches middle school English at a small private Christian school.
Oh, okay. I was a high school English teacher, so we have something in common there as well.
Very much so.
Okay, so what's your favorite creation and why to date?
To date, that's hard because I've made so many beautiful objects, but I would say it's definitely a Dachshund quilt that I made. I bought the pattern off Etsy off a nice Canadian lady, and I modified it a little bit to have 8 little Dachshunds in the colors of the rainbow because it was for my nephew who was born in 2020, and he was a rainbow baby. So I thought it was fitting to put the Dachshunds, which is our favorite breed of dog, both myself and my sister, and the fact that he was a rainbow baby.
Oh, okay. So I know there is one quilt you finished not too long ago that I really love, and that's your bear paw quilt.
Mm-hmm.
I love the way that you use the rainbow colors and the way that they were laid out. I want to make one of those. That was inspiring to me.
Yeah, that one's fun.
Yeah, it is. It does. It looks like great fun. So what kind of quilter would you describe yourself? Are you traditional, modern, experimental? What kind of label would you give yourself?
I would definitely say hybrid. Someone asked me this question the other week, and I had to sit there and think about it. I actually had to look up what traditional versus modern was because I didn't know. I don't know everything. And I would like to say that my quilt blocks are definitely traditional. I tend to fall into that category, but the fabric selection that I use is, I like to say bold, bright, and colorful. So more modern fabric. So I'd say a mix between the two.
Yeah. And I think too, you said about your color selection being bold and bright. We have something in common there. That's what attracts me as well. I like to use bold colors. A lot of people are afraid of color. I have found. I'm sure you have found this as well. They will spend hours in a quilt store or online picking what they consider the perfect colors, and they're so afraid that they're going to wreck their quilt with the wrong colors. And if you look in nature, colors aren't that coordinated. They just all seem to work together. So that's my philosophy picking.
Right.
It'll work. It's only fabric anyway. So, but yeah. So moving on then. Do you have an actual area in your house that is your sewing area, and how would you describe it?
It's a hybrid space. I'm guessing I'm really liking that word hybrid.
I was going to say you like hybrid.
Only for these 2 questions, but it's my during the week I work from home, and it's my office space, and then I push the keyboard and mouse away at the end of the day, and then it becomes my sewing room. And then it's also our dining room that we don't use very often as a dining room. But so, yeah, it's a mixed use space, but primarily my sewing studio.
Yeah, I hear of a lot of people actually do that. They use their dining rooms as their sewing space. Well, I suppose, especially during COVID, we're not having a lot of people over for dinner and things like that. And usually you've got a huge table in, big work area in a dining room. So it makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Okay, so What's your favorite tool or technique or both, if you have one?
My favorite tool, I don't know if I could really call it my favorite, but my most dependable tool would be my seam ripper.
And you have a name for that, don't you?
I stole it from some of the ladies, Jack. They call it, a lot of the ladies call it going on a date with Jack. I like to call him Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, Jack the Ripper. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I heard that on one of your videos. And when you first said something about Jack, and I was thinking, oh, are you quilting with somebody else? And then I got it. So,
yes.
Yeah. And do you have a technique, something you really like to do?
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, I like to try a lot of different things and what works. I mean, I do enjoy applique on occasion, which I really haven't shown a lot in my videos yet, but I would like to show in the future because I think that, like, that's one thing a lot of people are scared of.
Yes, I agree. And I am sort of one of those people. I've done some, and once I get into it, I'm fine. But yeah, it's not one of those techniques that if I can avoid doing applique, if I see a pattern with applique in it, I will shy away from it. And I shouldn't, because more practice, the better you get at it, kind of a thing.
Yes.
So if you had all the money in the world, what one piece of equipment would you invest in?
I think it'd be a long arm machine.
Yes.
Because I would need all the money in the world, because not only would I need the money to purchase the machine, I would need to purchase a builder and some more lands and so forth to extend the house. I do not have the room for a long arm in this house.
I know what you mean. I have a long arm, and that was a dream of mine too. If I answered that question myself about 8 months ago, I would have said, yep, just have a long arm, but I don't know where I was going to put it. Well, mother is the invention, or was it necessity is the mother of invention? I found the space and saved a lot of money during COVID, not, going out to eat or traveling, which is what we like to do, travel. So we decided we're going to invest in a long arm now. And I just got my latest toy, which I was playing with before we came online this morning. And that's the Quilt Path. I bought the computer technology for it as well. Nice. And it's given me some problems. It's got a huge learning curve. But I mean, I just got it the other day with that. But yes, they're extremely expensive, and you have to find space for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did, and I'm happy about that. So anyways, have you ever belonged to, I'm changing track here. Have you ever belonged to a guild or an online group for quilting?
Not a guild per se. I mean, I'm part of several different Facebook groups and Discord and so forth. But yeah, all online, nothing in person. There's no guilds really close by. I mean, I'd have to travel at least 30-40 minutes in either direction from my house to get to one. So it's just, for me, it's not practical to pack it. If it's 5-10 minutes down the road, I might pack up my stuff and go. But yeah, too big a hike.
Yes, it is. But one of the things that COVID has provided for us, a positive side to COVID, if there's such a thing, is that now that we have this ability to Zoom, everybody's Zooming everything. We're Zooming right now. And there's a lot of guilds that have gone online. And I think they've increased their membership base because of that. But Facebook has a lot of groups too that are kind of guilds. I belong to a couple of them. One's the Canadian men quilters, and another one's just male quilters on there. And they're a little different than being part of a guild, but you still get a lot of information from them, and you can still learn a lot. So that's what I find is good about that kind of thing. But
definitely,
yeah, guilds, I think the day and age of in-person guilds for a lot of people, I think they're going to start going down the tubes because of COVID and because of the uprise of Zoom with it. But time will tell. So do you have a favorite store for supplies and materials, whether that is a brick and mortar store or an online store?
It really depends on what I need and how quickly I need it. If it's something that I need like today, I mean, it is a 20-minute drive, but I can duck over to, my local Joann's and get, something that I need. There is a local quilt shop that I like to visit, especially for solids. Like if I want bright and solid colors, they carry the entire range of Kona solids, which I just absolutely adore. So I can, I know for sure I'm going to get, if not the exact color I want, the next shade down. And then I also love fabric.com just because of their selection, like their wide selection. And then So Yeah out in not Virginia Beach, Las Vegas also has a lot of fun stuff, and I've purchased quite a bit from them as well.
Yeah, the one thing about living in the States I have found from my research is you have a great selection of quilting stores, both brick and mortar and online. In Canada, we have a fairly good selection, but a lot of the stuff is because of the size of Canada and the way we're populated, it's far. Like I only have one quilting store in my area here. And if I want to go to, there's a couple of others, but they're more of a drive. Like one of them is 40 minutes away, and that's
Right.
close. That's considered close. So yeah, so I've been doing a lot of my fabric buying online. And have you done that? Have you done a lot of fabric buying online?
I have, yes.
How do you feel about that? Because I know some people don't want to do it because they want to feel the fabric, which I get.
With the solids, I'm not a fan of buying online because what you see on the screen is often not quite what you did. I actually bought a Kona Cotton panel with all the colors on there. So if I do have to go online, I have the true color as close as I can to it sitting right there in front of me.
Yeah.
But the pattern fabric, I'm more than happy to buy it online because what my quilt shop carries here locally, it can be totally different to what they carry in Kansas City or Chicago or Toronto or Winnipeg or anything else like that. So yeah, solids not so much unless I have to, but yeah, patterns I have no problem.
Yeah, I saw that panel that you bought with all those Kona colors, and I've never seen anything like that before. And I was thinking, yeah, that would be an excellent reference point, as you said, because you're depending on how your monitor is, configured, it's going to change the colors a little bit
Yeah.
with it. So yeah, that's true. One thing is about if I go back for a second to about the selection you have available to you as an American in the States. For us as Canadians, to buy American makes it extremely expensive because of
Mhm.
shipping and because of the exchange in our dollar. So I have bought from, Missouri Star Quilt, Jordan Fabrics, things like that, but it's still quite expensive for us. So I try to stick to Canadian, but I don't know how it is in the States right now, but I know in Canada, fabric has the increase in quilting cotton has astronomically gone up. We used to be able to get it for 15, 16, $17 a meter. It's now average price is 20, 21, 22. It's as high as $26 a meter. So this hobby that's
Yeah.
already expensive is getting more expensive for us.
Yeah, thankfully, I haven't seen a huge increase recently. I have been watching that, and I believe the reason it's going up so much is the shipping rates for containers has skyrocketed. I work for a container ship company, and I've seen the just the change in rates, and it's just and the fuel prices going up aren't helping either.
No, no. And of course, that all gets channeled down to us, the consumers, as well.
Yes,
So it makes our quilts even more precious. We
yes,
make
sir.
them because it's like liquid gold we're sewing with.
Yes.
So let's see. Do you have any favorite experts or sources of information that you turn to when you're maybe trying to find a new technique or to learn something? Or
Google. I mean, I just find there's so many wonderful people out there. I mean, everyone seems to have their little corner or their niche. And I just don't think it's fair for me to name too many names because I'm going to miss so many people that I turn to. So, I mean, I usually go to YouTube for a lot of stuff and type in what I'm looking for. And then I just watch a few videos to get an idea of um, what to do. Because sometimes it's the people that have very little following that can teach you the best.
exactly. And it's one reason why I conduct these interviews because I'm not interested in going to what we would consider the gurus. I want to go to the average quilter because they have much to share. That's how I learned. I learned from YouTube videos and
Mhm.
from doing searches on Google the same way. And the people that I found for the most part that were the most helpful were the people like me who learn by just the mistakes they make and the struggling. That's why I called my channel the Idiot Quilter, because I am not afraid to point out what I did that was really stupid and
Right.
how to fix it. These ones that you see that from beginning to end, thanks to a lot of editing, it looks like it's just seamless and that it's just absolutely perfect the first time in the whole bit. And we both know that doesn't happen. So, and I
Right.
think that does injustice to somebody who is just starting out. I think it's intimidating,
Right.
for it, because it is a craft, it is a hobby. You're going to make mistakes, you learn from them. No big deal.
Yeah.
So, do you have any challenges or goals for the future in terms of projects you want to make? Kind of your bucket list, I suppose.
I just want to try different techniques. If something intrigues me, I try to, put it on a list and so forth. I would like to get more practice on my free motion quilting because I'm very, very much a beginner on that. And quite a few of my friends that I've met through quilting have been trying to talk me into foundation paper piecing, which is something I want to try very soon. But I need to knock out some of my current projects before I start tackling that. But that's kind of two of the things that's on my list that I want to do fairly soon.
So you said the word list. Are you a list maker, like a physical list maker for projects? Because you said there's all kinds of things you want to do. And myself, I'm constantly making and revising lists of projects to the point where it just becomes sometimes overwhelming. I have so many things I want to try. I'll need to live to be 300 to do
Right.
it. But is that sort of a part of your, well, do you have a planning process, or is it more, hey, I saw this pattern, I think I'd like to try it, or I saw this fabric, I'd like to make it into something?
If I see a fabric I like, I'll buy it. Because as a quilter yourself, if you don't buy it now and you go back a month later, it could be out of print. So I mean, there's several things I've bought fabric for, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I have it. I think a good example of that was the dinosaur fabric that I bought a month or two ago, and I said on my podcast, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, and then about a week later, I heard of a really fun project for these kids in a camp in Ohio where I can, you donate quilts to them, and I thought this would be perfect for them. So,
Right. Well, I don't know if you've ever run into this, but when you're buying fabric, and one of the salespeople in the fabric store, quilt store, say to you, "So, what are you going to do with this?" My answer is, "I don't know. It's pretty. That's why I bought it."
I've told them that too.
That question actually annoys me. It's as if I have to go in with a plan. Like I just appreciate that fabric. Of course, sometimes then you don't want to really cut it when you get it home. You're looking for the perfect pattern to go with that fabric. And sometimes it sits, at least for me, sits on my shelf. And that is something I have to get over and just pull it out and go, well, whatever. I think I'll use it for this one and not waste too much time thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm on the fence. Like, with me, I'm like, just save it until you're ready for it. Like your future,
Yep.
you're hedging your bets. You've already got it. If the price of it goes up next month, like you said earlier, then you've already bought it at a cheaper price.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right too. If you see it and you like it and you come back a month later to get it, it's gone and you can't get it again. So,
Mm-hmm.
that, what do they call that? FOMO, fear of missing out.
It. Yeah,
Kind of a thing. So, speaking about this, it just made me think. So, do you do any what they tend to term as improv piecing, or are you strictly I have a pattern now, I'll make it?
I like to make my own stuff as well. Like if I think of something or I see something I like, and I want to modify it somewhat. Yeah, it's a bit of each. Like I'll buy patterns, but then a lot of stuff I'll just make myself. Or my wife will say to me, "Hey, could you do something like this?" And then I try and sit down and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about quilting is the freedom to, if you can break yourself away from thinking you have to do an actual pattern, breaking out and just trying different things. I find that very freeing. And that takes me to my next question then, because I consider quilters artists. There are those in the world who would not call quilters artists. They say it is a craft. Well, there may be a fine line between craft and art. I'm not sure what that is, but craft for some people suggests you're not really serious about this. It's like you've got a glue gun, you're happy, kind of a deal, sticking things together. And quilting is so much more than that. So as an artist, because I consider all quilters an artist, how would you describe yourself? Now, we've already kind of touched upon what kind of quilter you are, but what I'm asking, I guess, is, are you someone that is into free flow, spontaneous, improv, experimentation, exploratory? I don't know if that
Yeah,
helps.
I think so. I mean, and to say, with the whole craft versus art thing, I mean, art can be so many things. And if you look at it, the letters for art are in craft.
That's true. That's true.
Very true.
I
So
never
yeah,
thought of that.
you can use that against the next person,
Yeah.
challenges you on that. Yeah, because they say dancing is an art, which, it is definitely an art form.
Yeah.
So, if dancing can be an art form, then quilting sure as heck can be. I mean, how would I describe myself? I mean, kind of what you said. I mean, I don't mind experimenting. I don't mind, I love looking at the shapes in a quilt or a pattern, or seeing something in nature or something like that, and going, okay, what shapes are in there so I can turn this into a quilt. And but yeah, I like, go back to the whole bold and bright, and just trying to make something out of something so basic, and just trying new things as time goes on.
Yeah, that's true. And that's all very artistic. Now, I'm just going to return to a point we asked you at the beginning of this, and that's about what kind of quilter you are. And have you ever, like the modern quilt movement, for lack of a better word, do you have any desire to move into doing modern quilts, or even what they now call art quilts, where that's definitely not a pattern you follow, you kind of make it up as you go along?
Yes, I saw some art quilts when I very first started, and I thought that'd be really cool to try, but I just don't think I'm ready to tackle that aspect yet. But in the future, absolutely, I'd love to do some art quilts. I'd love to do that sort of thing with Australian wildlife, like the bright and colorful birds, for example, like the rosellas and cockatoos, and that's, and you've seen those, I'm sure.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Australia. I would love to do something like that, but I'm not there yet. And then what was the other one?
I don't know, what was it?
The modern type thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to experiment with that as well. Right now I'm kind of in a traditional block phase, but yeah, definitely in the future I'd love to do, try some modern stuff. I saw some modern quilts at the quilt show a couple of months ago, and I thought they'd be fun to try. And yeah, definitely something to do in the future.
Yeah, and that would, just your answer there to that question brought up two things in my mind. First of all, when you're talking about the colors in Australia through the wildlife, when I was in Australia, I bought a lot of Australian fabrics. I absolutely love Australian fabrics because of their colors. They're bright, they're bold, and their design. They're very the Aboriginal sort of I guess influence that's on many of those fabrics. So I have made two Australian quilts, what I call Australian quilts. One involved applique, actually, with an applique that I got of a kangaroo in Australia too. So I absolutely, that's another thing I love about Australia, is I love their fabrics and their colors as well. The other point, which leads me into my next question, is the whole, you said that you're not maybe yet at the point where you want to throw yourself into some modern or quilting or art quilting. So that brings up the whole idea of the expression they use, the quilt police. What's that bring to your mind when you hear that expression, quilt police?
I've heard of it, and what brings to my mind is someone that's out there, kind of like a rogue HOA person, where they just go out and nitpick every little thing. However, having said that, I've never experienced it. I've found that the quilting community in 2022 especially is very welcoming, very forgiving, very accepting of everybody. And I think the quilt police per se is dying, and fading into the distance. I mean, I think the only place you might find them now would be a quilt show, but then you're putting your very best work in that you have to have as close to perfect as you can in order to win, because you are competing against others. So having the quilt police there is perfectly acceptable. But other than that, I think they are a dying breed and going the way of the dinosaurs.
I think the existence of quilt police is not from outside. I think it's from within inside ourselves. I think a lot of times, like, and taking this back to the idea of moving into modern and art quilts, I know what holds me back from doing much in that is that I'm afraid my inner quilt police say, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't put that there. You can't sew it like that. And that holds me back. So I don't think quilt police, I think quilt police are a myth. Really, I think
It
they're
could
really
be.
inside of us. They're our own self-critic, we have to get over that a little bit. And
Yeah.
and then you're talking about shows and things. Do you have, or have you ever entered a quilt into a show? And do you have any
Mhm.
desire to?
Yes and yes. I entered a quilt into the state fair last year. It was a doll quilt. You usually see it hanging up. Actually, you can see it hanging up behind me, um,
Oh, yeah, okay.
up
Oh,
there.
yes, I see that.
And
Yes.
yeah, I just threw it, and it is nowhere near perfect. The points are off, but I picked up third place, and I
Oh,
was,
wow.
yeah. When I saw that ribbon hanging there at the state fair last year, I thought I'd won the lottery. Um, so that gave me a lot of inspiration to keep at it, and I do intend on entering the state fair again this year, and then maybe some other competitions down the road. So if anyone's out there that's kind of been sitting on the fence, just do it. I mean, it doesn't have, being perfect helps. Um, but if it's not perfect, just throw it in because you never know what's going to happen. And if nothing else, they will give you a nice report of what you've done right and what areas you can improve on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably very valuable information to have no matter
Yes.
what. I have entered one in in a quilt show that was through the guild I used to belong to. I didn't win anything, but I mean, the competition was pretty stiff. But I used to have that idea that I wanted to be a good enough quilter that I could put one in a major show and I would have been thrilled to win. I'm over that now because I found that putting too much pressure on myself. I mean, this is for fun. I do it
Yeah.
for, relaxation, all that kind of thing. So, but I do know a lot of people that is a goal. And there's nothing wrong with having that kind of goal for yourself
Mhm.
because it probably will make you a better quilter because especially if you get the feedback and everything. But that's great that you actually won a prize. I would have been thrilled with third
Yes.
prize too on one as well. So congratulations for that.
Well, thank you.
So that takes me now, since we are both males and we know we are a bit of a minority in the quilting community, but that's changing. There's more and
Yes.
more guys, that are getting out there and getting into quilting. But have you found yourself treated any differently at times because you're a male quilter?
Not really. I mean, when, if I go to the store with my wife, they automatically assume it's her, and that's perfectly normal and acceptable. And, but, when they find out it's me, they often, start asking me a million questions and, very, very accepting. The only issue I really run into that I find, or anything that makes it different, is a lot of times I have to go and ask for help because I think the shop staff or the vendor staff think I'm just a husband or a boyfriend just hanging out, waiting, playing on my phone, waiting for my wife or girlfriend to, finish their purchase.
Yeah, I have experienced that as well. But for the most part, yeah, it's the same. I have found very accepting, don't even question it. When they finally, you tell them, no, I'm the quilter, they're fine. They're
Oh yeah,
never have
yeah,
any problems with that at all. So yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. In anything in life, if a woman wants to get into something that has been traditionally seen as a male thing, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If they want to be an ironmonger, they can,
yeah.
kind of a thing as well. So, do you have any advice for anyone who may just be getting started in the quilting art form?
I say do it. Like just go out and buy, get a machine from, Walmart or Amazon, or find one that's, been laying in your grandmother's basement or anything else. As long as it does a straight stitch, you can quilt. Like you don't need to start off with a fancy, $10,000 machine. I still use my $80 brother that my wife bought me back in 2013 for all my piecing. and I'm very happy with it. And just get some basic stuff, get some fun fabric that speaks to you, and the basic supplies like ruler, seam ripper, rotary code and that sort of thing, and just do something simple. I mean, I watched a YouTube video on how to make a basic patchwork quilt to start off with, and that worked out beautifully. I think some people try and do really complicated patterns at first, and then they get very discouraged unless they have someone there to help them out, which, I've seen a lot of people do that and they've been very successful. But if you're starting out by yourself, keep it simple.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best advice, is just keep it simple, and you will build as time goes on. As you get more comfortable with the simple things, you can move and extend your experience with things a little bit more complicated. Yeah, and that's what I like about this whole hobby. It's never boring. It's always something to learn and everything. So do you have any final comments or words you'd like to say before we end today's interview?
I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. It was great being able to chat with you for a little while, and have a chat to another male quilter, because I love the ladies out there, and they've been very welcoming and everything else. But it is good to have a chat to someone else that shares the same gender as me.
I agree. Well, Sean, thank you so much for doing this, the interview. I really appreciate it. And as I said at the beginning of this, and what you just touched on a second ago, I think it's important to let the rest of the world know that, yes, we are men, we quilt, and we're proud of it. And, there's nothing to be shy about when it comes to this art form, because art is for any sex. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So again, thank you so much for doing this interview. And if you just stay on the line for a minute, I'm going to end the recording.
Okay.
But thank you. Oh, yeah. One thing I want to ask you too. I want you to plug your YouTube channel. So what's it called?
My name is The Guy Who Sews, and my channel name is the same. And I do a variety of content, but the basic bones of it is a weekly podcast that I do on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. And it just shows you the different projects that I'm working on, what I've finished, what I'm planning to do in the future, what I've purchased. And it's just a short, it's under 10 minutes, and just a fun thing that a lot of people tend to enjoy.
Yeah, and I watch those faithfully, and I do enjoy them because they're short, but they give me a sense. It's very relaxed what you're doing, kind of a thing. It's not overdone like so many quilters who get on and show their stuff and everything and talk about their techniques. It just, here it is. This is what I've done. And I think it's inspiring because of that as well. Because like I said, I saw your bear paw one and thought, ooh, I really like that. I want to make one, and I will sometime, but whatever, it's on my list. So again, thank you, Sean, so much for this. This was great. And I hope you have a good week, and we'll continue to follow you on your YouTube channel.